Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the WGLNA. Tonight is day one of Season 5. I'm Joshua Gray.
And I'm Randall Holcomb, and we've just gotten off a stellar, absolutely stellar qualifier where we've had 3 new teams join us, and I am looking forward to a few of them coming in, and I'm glad to welcome a few old teams back.
It's nice to see Simple Takers making it back as well. They scared us for a little bit. We're quite impressed to see the changes that have happened so far and how these teams have adapted throughout the entire qualifier process. But now it's time to see who's going to be the best of the best for this season. We have a lot of great announcements we're going to announce today regarding the finals. We're also going to cover what has changed with the 7x54 format and how that's different from 7x42 compared to last season. First off, we're in assault mode. It's attack defense mode. And this is a mode that has worked very well so far in both the attackers and the aggressors getting these significant wins.
Yes, so the way it works out is instead of the way it was before, which was 2 cap points, you know, you defend your own, now there's an attacker and there's a defender. A match is going to be 8 battles broken up by 2 maps. The first map will be played 4 times, attack twice by one team, then they'll switch and defend. Then they'll go to the next map, they'll attack twice, and then they'll defend. First to 5 wins. And if there is a tie, we do have a tiebreaker map, but chances are we won't see that. I've seen most battles going to, you know, maybe 3-5, but most of the time we won't see those 4-4 splits.
We've had a couple close ones. But we've seen determinate winners in every single map so far. But I really like the changes of the positioning of the flag caps themselves. It's no longer where the flag caps are next to the spawn points. They're in 2 different sections, and that has proven to be effective for some fast cappers as well. Let's go ahead and move on to the map pool itself. Now, you'll see a couple of maps that are pretty familiar from previous seasons. We have one new map. That's Murovanka, the Magical Forest.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to seeing if we'll play that today. But the one map that I want to highlight is going to be Prohorovka, which is going to be the tiebreaker map. And I kind of feel that if it's our tiebreaker map, that's the map I want to focus on. So I've already detailed a few things here. You'll notice the red in the bottom right-hand side. You've got one of the strategies for Prohorovka. The attacker can go and take that high hill, take some middle control, but the defender has an interesting problem. And I've drawn out 2 strats. These aren't the only 2 strats, but they're pretty good. You can go west side or you can go east side, but you can attempt to go down the middle and try and flex whichever way you need to. However, spreading out too much is not probably the best strategy for a defender.
Yeah, and that hillside, along with engaging against that village, then the railroad tracks and trying to cross over, has been effective for some teams but ineffective for others. And I look forward to what these professional teams are going to bring compared to what we saw the qualifiers when it came to the maps and the changes. Now, another thing that has changed is the tier point limit. 7x42 over to 7x54, obviously it's a higher value, but also there's 2 types of lineups these teams can bring. One type is 5 tier 8s and 2 tier 7s. The other is 6 tier 8s and 1 tier 6. And the individual lineups we've seen so far have also included Artie, and that has been really exciting to see.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to it coming back because I, as a player who loves scouting, also have a bit of an affinity for artillery. And I'm thinking probably one of the first ones I'm going to touch on is going to be the GW Panther, which is a tier 7 artillery piece, which we did see a little bit, and it performed rather well. But the big thing about any artillery piece, it's going to be its gun. And if we take a look at the GW Panther, we see a 150mm cannon. I've brought up the stats for that, just right-clicking on any gun, choosing characteristics will show you that. 88 pen HE. Now, on an open map, if that hits a light tank, that's going to pen pretty well. A heavy tank, not so well, and I would probably shy away from the heat rounds. But the golden HE has a nice splash, and on top of that, you get 1,200 average damage if it pens. So that tank will obliterate a light tank if it finds it on the battlefield.
And we saw Caught, when one of the individuals from one of the teams performed very well with this artillery. We've also been seeing the M41 Bulldog get behind enemy lines and take down artillery has been chosen by the enemy side.
It's
We've
their
seen
job.
The T49 with its massive cannon, that massive amount of damage, but slow reload time being used on Cliff effectively from some teams, and that running and gunning type strategy was always fun to see in the past with some tanks, but that T49 can fulfill that role. And the RU-251 That is a consistent fire damage dealer.
And it's going to be a staple tank in the format. Absolutely staple tank in every single battle that isn't Himmelsdorf.
One important thing we need to mention as well is because of the nature of the matches now, this round robin, each team will face every other team, meaning we'll be able to broadcast half the matches for you for this season, and we'll give you the highlights and information on the results of the other matches as well. Randall had a chance to sit down with Soviet to discuss the tactics. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
Greetings and welcome. I'm Randall Rukil-Holcomb, and I'm going to be talking tanks with Kirill Soviet Bondar from Roulette, former #RU. And today's subject, 7x54 format, the new format for the Gold League. And I guess we're going to be going over what changes there are and maybe the important points that everyone should be looking out for when they're going to be watching and playing in this format. So where do we start?
Thanks, Randall. The 754 format is extremely exciting. The changes that are coming along are the increase of points available to a team from 42 to 54 while maintaining the team size of 7 players. However, there are restrictions to lineups. You can only field 6 tier 8s and 1 tier 6, or 5 tier 8s and 2 tier 7 tanks. That means that we're going to have a lot more tanks available to the players, such as the new tier 7, tier 6 tanks, and of course the old tanks from tier 8 that we saw in 742.
But yeah, so that's the 754. But what about the new maps, the assault mode that this is going to be played in?
Yes, Randall. The assault mode is one of the bigger changes that's coming with the 754 mode. And it's not just the old assault mode where we saw 1 cap circle for the defenders. Now we have 2 of them. And here on the screen we have Cliff, which is one of the more popular maps in the 742 format, but you can immediately see the changes. You have the 2 cap circles for the defense, and the attacker starts in the south here without a cap circle. Since they're attacking, they have to capture the bases from the defenders. Yeah. The defenders, however, because they're faced with 2 bases to defend, have to spread out. They have to have map control and see where the attack is coming from.
Thank you, Soviet, for coming out and teaching us about the 7x54 format. I hope all of you out there learned a lot, and I'll see you on the battlefield.
All right, thank you, Soviet, for that insight. Let's talk about the matches that we have tonight, Randall. First off, it is going to be one of the powerhouse teams in the world today. That's SIMP versus eLevate.
Also, that's formerly Burn All Empires. They've kind of changed things around, done a little merger with the team eLevate from the Silver League, and are kind of looking to grow. And it looks like an interesting step for them. We'll have to see against SIMP how that's going to pan out.
SIMP is a team that has been a dominant force since the very beginning. Second place, first place, but then falling again back down. So it's been a roller coaster ride, not as torrential as other teams. The thing about SIMP, though, that they need to work on the most is time management. A lot of complaints were happening from some people saying they were too campy. Mac G made his very appropriate point that, hey, why would we assault into a defensive force that's going to annihilate us? We're not going to do that.
They want to play a control game. They want to control everything, so make sure whatever happens is under their influence. If they can't influence the outcome to be a victory, you know, they're not going to go for that. They're gonna sit back. But with the new format, they don't quite have those choices. They're gonna have to learn to. They're gonna control things a different way.
Yeah, and they can't sit there and not do anything and wait. They have to have a plan and implement that plan. Burn All Empires, their plan is at the very beginning. They're going to try to implement it because they're an aggressive team. Moving on to Timed Out versus Penguin Mafia. Timed Out is the heart of Brazil. This team represents a lot of our fans and tankers down in South America, and we're happy to have them here. You'll see some members that were some individuals that were members of Game Over, and looking at their type of play, they made it from the second place Silver League, so that's how they made it into the Gold League. But they're going up against Penguin Mafia, a team that has impressed us thoroughly from how they performed in the qualifiers.
But that is qualifiers. They did do well. They beat some good teams in there. But when they find their way into the Gold League, is the pressure going to change things up? That's the question I'm asking for Penguin Mafia.
I mean, it can definitely change, but they took out Simple Tankers in the qualifiers. Yeah. Penguin Mafia took down Simply Irresistible because of the nature of 2 open slots for that week. Both Simple Tankers and Penguin Mafia made it into the league. But Penguin Mafia and Simple Tankers fought for scheduling in that matchup, and they won. So this is a team that took down a Gold League already, even though Simple Tankers has been trying to climb their way back up. Fun Gaming versus Noble. Now, Fun Gaming is a team that got assaulted verbally by a number of individuals, both part of the Gold League and the fans, for their campy tactics. This was a team that joined us via qualifier, a team that won significant Russian lands, but they had to change their play style last season.
Yeah, they got countered out once everyone figured out what they were going to do, and they didn't really change it up quite so much. They could have gone with a bigger shift in their play style, but they didn't, and they suffered for it. And there were teams like Victoria's Secret that kind of destroyed them because of their play style. Now with the new one, I'm expecting them to perform very well on the defensive side, but I'm not sure how they'll go on the attack. It's a matter of if they can play the tempo and the control game that they need to in order to win on maps like Cliff.
They're fighting against Noble, who is formerly the Googly Bobbers, the Hold My Beer Tactics team. Let's see if Hold My Beer Tactics is going to work for 7x54. They have been struggling recently, but now hopefully they're on the up and up, and we'll see how they perform against Fun Gaming. The final match tonight, RBIS versus Victoria's Secret. I'm really excited for this matchup because these two teams were rivals in the Silver League 2 seasons ago. They both came into the Gold League. RBIS had a fantastic run making it to the Season 4 finals. Victoria's Secret had issues, and the main issue was having people show up. It was having a roster that was formidable.
Just other stuff got in the way for them, and they did stay together as a team, though. They have not kind of dissolved or anything. They've come back with some new members, and they're here. They're here to fight, and now they get to test themselves against their old rivals, who are an intimidating team, probably one of the highest rated I have right now.
Victoria's Secret, though, was able to show the type of cards and strategies they're going to bring individually for teams they're going to go up against every week. We saw that against Fun Gaming with the shovel tactics that they had to get them out of that defensive type play against the campy style of Fun Gaming. Well, that does it for our matches we're going to have tonight. A really good lineup for our first day of season play for the WGLNA. Now, they're going to be fighting for $171,000 for the prize pool this season. And also, we're going to be able to announce where and when the finals will take place in just a little bit. We also have a fantasy league that's happening as well.
Yeah, you can go to fantasy, what is it? WGL Fantasy, or it is fantasywgl.com. You should sign up with your World of Tanks account. It connects to that. You can choose your players that you want on your teams. You get 7 of them. And then, see how you would do. See if your predictions are right for who's going to perform well.
And we'll see what people have as fantasy teams probably towards the end of the season. Randall and I will compete a little bit as well. So go ahead and sign up, fantasywgl.com. Well, that does it for our pregame show, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. The first match of SIMP versus eLevate begins after this.
SIMP took it pretty hard at the end of last season. It's difficult to get to the finals and lose to a new opponent. On a side note, it was very nice to actually defeat Fnatic one more time and walk over them to the finals. That was nice. It was frustrating the way that we lost to #RU. That was a combination of many factors. But SIMP finds their redemption here. This is a natural. We bested our previous opponents, and they have now left the stage, and we are happy to be standing there victorious, and we have some competitors that we need to deal with. There's some very different styles on how we need to deal with them, and there's some different minds that we have to tackle. People will question whether or not we have what it takes to continue to compete because we performed poorly in the last 2 events. This is not necessarily the perspective that we hold inside. We've been here for a long time. This is a stamina game, and we've seen many flashes in the pan and people that have come in and out of the league, and we're still here. We have been here, and we will continue to be here. For this season, we expect a lot of new and interesting strategies. We think that the meta is going to develop as the season goes on. I don't think we're going to see a fixed meta right away, and I can tell you I think we're going to see some Tier 7 light tanks. And a lot of them, and maybe even some arty. But the Assault mode is very exciting, and we're enjoying thinking about planning and strategizing the new mode.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the WGLNA. We're almost ready for the first matchup. I'm Joshua Gray, as always, joined by Randall Holcomb. I want to remind everybody to please follow us on Twitter at WGLNA, Facebook.com/WGLNA, and make sure to use that hashtag WGLNA. That's how we're going to find your tweets and put them up on the broadcast.
And don't forget about the social media question of the day, which you can respond to on Twitter and Facebook. Why will your team make it to the Season 5 finals right at the beginning, but who's your bet on who's going to be there in the end?
That's a big, big question for everybody that's involved, but we love hearing from the fans, and a couple of the players I'd love to chime in as well.
Oh, probably.
They're a little bit biased.
I mean, on the list is probably going to be SIMP. If last year maybe Roulette, Arbus, are they going to be there? Maybe, maybe not. There's a lot of teams which I think might be vying for those spots this time.
A lot of teams from the Silver League that want to make it in as well towards the end of the season. We're going to have the face-off ready for you in just a little bit with the two team representatives from SIMP and eLevate. But before then, Randall, talk a little bit more about the history of these teams. SIMP has been a wonderful organization when it comes to fostering growth in World of Tanks competition. What I mean by that is the amount of teams that have joined us in the Gold League, Simple Tankers, and other teams that were there in the past, Simplistic, and teams that try to make it through.
Yeah.
Simposaurus Rex was one of them.
There's so many other SIMP names. I mean, that's the kind of naming pattern that you get, and it's kind of cute, a little confusing for us. I mean, but
keeps us on our toes.
That's what it does.
It's part of our job.
Yeah.
In comparison to eLevate, formerly Bernal Empires, the type of aggressive play that eLevate would bring in the past was a breath of fresh air a number of times. And that first minute in the 10-minute matches that we had in the past in 7x42, 90% of the time, Bernal Empires, at the time, now eLevate, was moving. They were going. They were pulling that trigger. What would happen if that didn't work? They would start to fall apart and figure out what to do, or sometimes they were in the lead and they say, hey, let's keep doing the same thing, and then they would fall apart against Hammer Time.
Yeah.
I feel what is going to help them with this season as well as what they've learned in the past and how this first matchup is going to go for them where they need to make adjustments.
I think the addition of Serenity to eLevate and with also Zoid, I think they'll be a stronger team as well.
Let's go ahead and jump into the face-off with our two team representatives. Gentlemen, good evening.
How are you doing?
Evening.
Laps, you've made it this far. You're back in Season 5. Your thoughts and feelings going into this 7x54 matchup?
We're just pumped. I got to tell you, there's been a whole new energy in SIMP. The amount of time we've wanted to practice just simply because this format is, we were starving before, and now we've got a feast in front of us. There's so much to tactically think about.
I want to ask about some players who have performed well in the past. First of all, Blue Boys, and I believe it's Crimson. Crimson will play Artie for you guys?
Yeah, Crimson's got some skills that he's going to be showing off in Artie.
Okay, so with the new format, do you think that those guys are going to be able to shine more than they have in the past with the ability to play tanks to a style which might suit them better?
Certainly. Blue Boys was being stretched there when we were trying to pull some 49 hilarity at the end of those last seasons. And I think it's going to be interesting to be able to put these guys in a wider variety of tank. They're now able to choose what tanks they want to play and what maps they're going to play them on. So,
all right, Lap's always good to see. Let's go ahead and check in with G-Forcer, team leader of eLevate. G-Forcer, tell us a little more about eLevate. Why the change?
Well, eLevate's such a great organization, and it kind of took us by surprise. We're like, hey, we're looking for a sponsor. We had a couple options just going into the new season, and just we loved what we saw with eLevate. They've been very successful in other sports, esports, and we wanted a sponsor to take our game to the next level.
You took the game to the next level when you went on an international stage and Rumble in the West. How has that improved you and your team?
Well, it's always good to get experience playing both international teams, live events. It takes a little bit. It's a different experience, and so we're kind of use that, even though we didn't place all that well. Use that momentum to hit this season strong.
Was that your first time on stage at Rumble?
We had done WCG 2013
Okay.
against Fulcrum. That was our first time, like a year ago.
So do you think being on stage, taking it next to maybe playing online, does it seem kind of like the pressure isn't there, or is it still just as high?
There's definitely pressure. You just can't let it get to you. I think what you learn when you play on stage more than once or twice is you can kind of learn to play your game instead of letting the crowd get to you or all the excitement going on around you.
Well, that Polish crowd was very excited to see you and the Cunninghams go head-to-head. That was a lot of fun. But now you're going up against SIMP. G-Force, or anything you'd like to say to SIMP before we get started?
Well, SIMP is one of those teams that's been around since before I can remember with competitive World of Tanks, and they're definitely, I'd say, the most consistent team being up there every single season. So we're always excited to get another shot at them and hopefully take them down.
All right, Laps, any words?
The feelings are mutual. May the best tankers win, and I'm very excited to see what we're going to see here tonight. I've been dreaming about the possibilities now with the guaranteed 50% win ratio. So.
All right, we have as well, Laps. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on the face-off. Best of luck. We'll see you on the battlefield. Fitting start for the season, Randall, really is to have these two teams go head-to-head. And now you can place your bets. At the beginning of every single battle, betting will be open. If you need more information, ask the people in chat. Our moderators are standing by to help you out. You might be a little bit confused at first if you're just joining us. What are all these commands and exclamation point, bet 10, and then the team name? That's the proper syntax. Everybody always starts out with 10 points. And you can go to the website, wglconnect.com, to see the leaderboard. Now, at the end of every night, the top performers will possibly, we obviously have to choose one, but they have an opportunity to take home a fantastic prize. Tonight, one of those prizes will be a Jinx code. Our friends at Jinx have provided a $50 code so that you can secure some awesome World of Tanks gear. You can go to their website, jinx.com, click that World of Tanks button. And look at this. They even have a tanker hat coming out here pretty soon.
Nice. I think I want to pick one of those up maybe for Christmas. Maybe something with a collar.
This is the Hat Man. This is the Hat Man. Right, let's go ahead and take a look at the rosters.
All right, so looking at SIMP, we're going to notice most of the roster is the same as always, but we have Check Monster and Brodus now for SIMP. Check Monster is a name that most people who've been around in Clan Wars and World of Tanks should know. Brodus, if you're at all familiar with SIMP, he's a really cool guy. eLevate. For them, we've got Lost Zoid and Serenity. Serenity played with them in Rumble, and he's going to be joining them as a permanent member. I'm looking forward to that.
Got a Droxus Heavy 20 combo. I'm looking forward to see how that's going to perform in this series. And here we go. Battle number 1 is about to begin for the first match of Season 5 for the WGLNA. What do we have for tanks?
For tanks, I'm looking at a 110, two 5100s, two RU 251s, an IS, and an M41 Walker Bulldog, and that is SIMP. The defending team, they will be the blue side. The red side attacking will be eLevate, and they will have 3 5100s, a 1390, 2 RU 251s, and they're going to bring a Hellcat, which is an interesting pickup. I don't think we've seen that before.
Not in quite some time, at least.
Yeah, that should be pretty cool. It's a good gun, good stealth, good view range, altogether a strong American tank. Not a lot of hit points or armor or anything, but they can work with that.
Taking a look at the red positioning here from eLevate, we see G-Forcer in the RU-251, leaving the charge into the northern village. He is followed up by Serenity 17, Azrael 90.
And there they found Crimson, I believe. Crimson moving back, and SIMP's position not super set up to be close to this cap, but I believe they will be able to defend it. We've got Abrasive moving in, and it looks like a Droxus taking the long way around. He may have to snipe. In the meantime, Blue Boys, Heavy 20, and the Walker Bulldog Fetch will be heading, it looks like, west or south even, to try and flank their opponent.
Mac G, known for the mag attack in his T1 in the 7x42 format, now in that IS. Scouting next to that fountain, G-Forcer takes 2 hits, one from Crimson or either Abrasive. Mac G turns the corner next to the fountain, is able to land a shot. G-Forcer is going to have to back out. That's significant double hit against him, as the flag cap still is a constant threat.
I'm waiting for them to try and find the reset. Heavy 20, maybe he can get the snipe shot in there if someone's able to spot it. It looks like they're going to send a Droxus right up there to get the spotting. He's got the armor, he's got the hit points. He might be able to sustain through this a little bit. As the flank is coming through, we've got Fedge going way south to flank this position and get into the backfield.
You're going to have to move a little bit quick, but here comes SIMP pushing up against the 3 tanks in the northern village, and more shots coming from long range. Crimson takes down G-Forcer as they continue to fire back towards a Droxus. Blue Boys almost out of the fight, very low on HP. But look at the spread of damage against SIMP. Abrasive is the first SIMP tank to fall. Still one only down for eLevate. They continue to take down Crimson Corsair. Heavy 20 now pushing up the RU-251. Trying to focus on type for the reset. The reset does happen. Zone Delta falls back, taking a little bit of damage. Heavy 20, 724 in that volley. 956, very low. 2 tanks still remain in the northern section as Zone Delta's going to move. He takes a big hit from Fej, who's in a prime position for assaulting the remaining tanks in the northern village.
And this fight has really gone the way of eLevate. SIMP tries to get some kind of defense going, but it looks like they've lost too many tanks. There goes Adroxus, but MacG is able to take down Serenity. There are now 5 tanks versus 3, and looking at the health pools, it's a little thin for SIMP to try and come back from this, but I wouldn't say it's impossible yet.
Azrael took a huge hit, but still alive in that 1390 up against Blue Boy's captain. He's going to try to screen this cap against the RU-251 that's 1 hit away. And Blue Boy's captain fires, trying to get a reset here. Some tanks still moving. And there goes Blue Boy's captain, Azrael 90. Won that duel, and Urtai takes down MacG. Fej is the last tank remaining for SIMP, with 5 tanks remaining for eLevate. And Fej is able to take down Urtai.
And there's so many tanks that are incredibly low. We've got 172 hit points on Static, 758 on Servios, Zone Delta 212, and Azrael is left with 5. I don't think Fej is going to be able to do it.
This is Fej. This is Fej that took down an AMX 1390 and a T1 Cunningham.
I mean,
if there's one guy on SIMP that can do it, Randall, it's this guy.
Maybe. 3 minutes, 15 seconds left in the battle. 12 seconds on the clock. I don't think he can actually reach the cap in time.
No.
So I'm going to pick this one up. Fej, if given an infinite amount of time, maybe, because he has that mobility to his advantage, could have done it. But it looks like eLevate is going to catch their opponent off guard, and SIMP is not going to have the proper strat for battle number 1.
And eLevate takes it with a base capture. Impressive play coming from eLevate. I really liked how they were trying to dictate the battlefield by having the Hellcat on that flag cap.
And looking at the post-game, I'm actually seeing that MacG, even though they've lost, MacG did an astounding amount of damage, 2,169 in his IS. That is the battle caller for SIMP, the guy who is spending a lot of his time and a lot of his focus on not his own individual play, but everyone else's.
Here we see that engagement in the northern section where Serenity and Azrael are dancing back and forth, but the open avenues of fire are so clear for the remainder of tanks from eLevate, and the clear and present danger of SIMP moving to that northern section was taken care of. And even though Heavy 20 had to push in to get that reset, where's he going to go? He's still in complete exposed fire here from the rest. They
had to do it. They made a rash move, hoping that they would have maybe the firepower to support him, because when he was moving in, when he was already going and not even into the center of their positions, there were 2 tanks in the northeast buildings, the 25100s, that weren't dead yet. And if they had been alive, able to fire, maybe they would have been able to do something, and SIMP had a plan there. But when they go down, because you've got a nice hidden 5100 in a bush, I did love that position. You lose those guys, and it all falls apart in 2 seconds. So
the noteworthy thing, too, is that eLevate are on the attack, SIMP is on the defense, and some people thought, well, defenders are always going to have the advantage. In a certain state of mind, sure, we can say yes to that. But in this case, eLevate, now with 1 battle ahead of SIMP, this is proving that 7x54 can be anybody's game at any time. Let's go ahead and check out the tanks.
All right, we've got a 110. 2 5100s, 2 RU-251s in IS, and an M41 Walker Bulldog. That is going to be SIMP, the blue team, defending. For their final attack on Ruinberg, we're going to have eLevate with 3 5100s, 1390, RU-251, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. So changing the strat up a little bit, and looking at that opening move, I see a blip of little red tanks moving straight across the F line.
That's Serenity 17, G-Forcer Urtai, and Azrael 90. They dodged 1 shot that came through from MacG in the IS, and now they're going to head towards the flag cap to the southeast and get towards the Delta Village.
This is a strat that we've seen a few times in the EU League right now, where you'll just blitz a few fast tanks right across the middle, take some control, send your heavy tanks a safer route to the south. They'll arrive in time to cover fire, and now you have control. Now you have a strong position, and you can begin pressuring the cap or just taking control of that high ground, especially if your opponent didn't put enough tanks over there. Of course, they did in this case. SIMP has set up a strong defense.
Definitely enough tanks there, Randall. Definitely enough. Urtai's going to move a little bit closer to the flag cap to scout where SIMP is. And as the 2 tanks that are slightly back, the AMX 5100, Crimson Corsair and Abrasive, they're not fully committing. They're keeping their distance, I believe, for 2 reasons. 1, in case there's a fall-on engagement in the Delta Village, they can be kind of that quarterback play to have that long-range fire, then come in a little bit later. Or 2, be able to move back to the northern flag cap in case there's some sort of aggression that comes as a surprise attack.
But what SIMP has done really well is they've sent Fedge to scout the west side of the map to verify that it's safe, that there's nothing sneaky coming in, that there won't be a fight somewhere and a cap somewhere else. Now the cap has begun. Fedge is a little confused for a moment. Looks like he's going... Is there someone on the cap behind me? Did I miss something? No, he hasn't. And it's actually the cap to the south. Fedge will notice this in a minute, SIMP will pull him, and then we'll see that full fight. But right now, they are one man down if a brawl does break out.
G-Forcer still on top of that flag, hugging the side.
And the push will be coming in. Looks like SIMP's going to go for a zero-line push with Serenity, Static, Azrael, and Servios. Kind of a little hit squad there while they keep some pressure on the cap. They're hoping for SIMP to move around to the west of this position so that they can take that high ground and eliminate someone like Abrasive in a 5100 who would be hiding in the backfield.
This is that type of position we talked about a little bit earlier, Randall, of that time management. In this case, time management works completely in favor to SIMP to wait this out, because if G-Forcer and his team, if eLevate is unable to get the flag cap in the remainder of time, the 7-minute total, but 4 minutes and 12 seconds now, then it's a win for SIMP.
And there's a connection. Urtai is going to take 279 damage to start this one out. Looks like that might have been from Mac G. Or, no, that could have been a Droxus, actually.
And G-Forcer gets hit from Fedge. That's going to reset the flag cap. He's going to position himself slightly to the south behind cover, but Fedge is going to take a hit for 150. Urtai and the M41 Bulldog is going to fall back a bit. Zone Delta in the 5100 is prized to push into the rear flank of Fedge or Blue Boys captain if they were to push in towards the flag cap, but not the case. 3 minutes and 39 seconds. It is up to eLevate to either attack straight on through the Delta Village or figure out a different approach. But time is ticking away, and it's the attacker's duty. Either get that flag cap or destroy their enemy team.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to reconnoiter a little bit here. Send their guys up the zero line. G-Forcer and Zone Delta, you can see them in the back there, are going to be moving towards the zero line, and with that, that tells me that eLevate's going to just everyone all in that position. They're hoping that Fedge is out of the way. They're hoping they can catch a tank off guard very quickly, and if they can do that, I see success. As it stands, they might be walking to a crossfire. Abrasive and Crimson Corsair can move just a little bit, and they'll have beautiful shots. Heavy 20 can back off a little bit, and the 5100s can probably obliterate someone. Shots fired onto Static, and this is the beginning of the engagement. Heavy 20 is being focused down first.
Trigger has been pulled. G-Forcer led the way. Urtai's going to come up from behind. He's the one that's taking the most damage. Blue Boys captain's going to swing in from the other side of the flank. Adroxus and Mac G have great coverage behind the buildings here, but now the rest of eLevate are going to push up. They need to focus on one tick at a time to take him down. The 110 from Adroxus is that tank, but his spike in the front, that pike, is able to dodge a couple shots. Wow. Never mind. He's down. Mac G is able to take down Urtai for revenge. Azrael 90 focusing on Blue Boys captain. But here comes Fedge and the M41 Bulldog. And he's going to get a couple shots on the rear as Servios falls.
And now looks like momentum's kind of start shifting back and forth as we see kills. There, G-Forcer goes down, and that was saving one tank. Now it turns that into a 2v5. Well, 2v4.
2v4, but Servios takes a big hit on the right. That AMX 5100, not sure how many shells he has left, but Serenity in the RU-251, the consistent fire tank, ready to take down Blue Boys captain. He gets hit first, though. Mac G's going to focus on him. Can he get the shot in time? Serenity 17 is able to turn the corner and escape with his life as Zone Delta in the 5100 has 2 tanks to deal with. 3, actually. Crimson Corsair further back.
Serenity is exposing himself quite a bit right now. This is a huge risk, but they will begin going after Zone Delta, it looks like. And he's gonna, yes, nice little move there to get out of the way. Zone is loaded and could deal the damage, but Abrasive is as well, and he is at full health.
And Abrasive lines the last shot, and SIMP puts a point on the board, tying up the series 1-1.
That was excellent teamwork. Absolutely excellent teamwork when they were under attack. You saw them focus on the right tanks. They did lose someone right off the bat. That's, I believe, Heavy 20, unfortunately for him. But they came back with that, and they got some of the right kills, saving some of their low tanks. We saw 5100 at 1 shot. And really good heads-up play to take down G-Forcer at a later part in this. G-Forcer right now, that little red dot right there just goes down. He was hunting for Crimson Corsair. And with that, that is SIMP taking it back into their control. Otherwise, we would have seen something a lot messier.
True. The important point I want to detail and highlight is keeping those lower tanks still alive and having Crimson Corsair fall all the way back next to that line, still in a position to where he has an idea of what's happening. At least MacG is still calling what's happening and could point his turret towards the western side in case there's some sort of crazy blitz to get on the flag cap. But by the time they determine that it's too late for that, there's not enough time, and we've killed most of their tanks, hang back, reload, and then push in. He got one of the kills towards the end.
Yeah.
So that is really good management of retreating in a sense of, you're not going to win this fight, Crimson Corsair. Move back. You'll win the battle later.
Yeah, and I have to point out also that MacG has been performing rather well. I think him in an IS is good. He's not required to do the same kind of management that a 5100 does. He just has to wait for that reload to deal a good 390 damage average, and he gets about what he needs of an IS-3, but out of a tier 7 tank. And I think that's a good tank for Ruinberg. You know, a heavy tank.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes. And also his position next to the fountain and using that fountain, kind of bouncing back and forth. It's not the most secure position. You're not behind a big building, but it's enough to cover his tracks and to cover the majority of his hull. And that is, and it's also advanced enough to be a thorn in the side of people moving towards the flag cap. Battle number 3 is about to begin between SIMP and eLevate. What do we have for tanks?
For tanks, I'm looking at 2 5100s, 1390, 2 RU-251s, 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. That is the red team, SIMP attacking. It is now their turn on the attacking side. The defenders, the blue team, eLevate, will have 3 5100s, a single IS-3, RU-251, a Tiger 1, and an M41 Walker Bulldog. Slightly different lineup here than what we saw from SIMP on the defensive side. The Tiger brings a good amount of hit points. But is it quite fast enough? We've got a blitz coming out. 5 tanks from SIMP moving right across that Echo Foxtrot line. And I'm not seeing any hits coming out onto them yet. They are stopping. Abrasive looks like he wants to get a hit, and he does. G-Forcer down to almost half hit points in an opening volley.
And a couple more shots coming out here as the rest of the blue team, eLevate, have moved into the Delta Village. SIMP heading to the southern portion of the Delta Village, except for one tank that is not fully committed. It's a Droxus who's hanging back towards the F crossroads, 1 block away. Static takes a hit.
And they looked a little confused almost for a moment. Zone Delta got caught completely off guard by Blue Boys, who just walked up and started just letting it go.
I think it's the amount of damage that G-Forcer took and trying to tell his team, hey, I'm taking a lot of hits here, guys. Either move forward or try to return fire. Fej takes a hit for 279. Big hits against Fej. He's almost down. MacG gets hit for 269. Fej is in the open, and Zone Delta gets the kill. That's the first take down on the battlefield here in Battle 3. Urtai took a couple hits as he peeked around the corner. Now Zone Delta is getting damage. But this is where you target fire, and that's where it comes in handy to know which target you're focusing on. G-Forcer moves in against Abrasive to get the reset, but he is going to get punished by a Droxus, and he goes down.
There we go. And now we've got a few tanks from SIMP that are fairly low, but we only have 4 tier 8s left, and they're not that healthy. Zone Delta has taken a few hits. Static, a little beaten up, but Servios is at full health. And Azrael, I think he's going to go down pretty soon, especially because a Droxus has a beautiful shot on him.
Servios and Static still hanging back here, but they can't move too far out because Blue Boys captain has such a great position for that side. Azrael 90, however, still assaulting in his IS-3 to do any damage he can. Zone Delta is a little bit exposed. I don't think Blue Boys captain can get that shot, though. Servios at full health, and that 5100 is going to be the major danger for SIMP right now on that flag cap.
Yeah, and as I jump to Blue Boys right now, he has beautiful shots. He might be able to take down Zone Delta. No, he's going for Azrael, actually, the most immediate threat to the cap. 2
shots out of 3 against Azrael have hit, and there goes the 4th one that penetrates. One of them did bounce off. Static takes down Heavy 20. So there is an answer, but look at the amount of tanks still left alive for SIMP. That's 5 compared to 3 from eLevate. But eLevate still trying to use that time factor here, but 4 minutes and 17 seconds is enough time for SIMP to gather together. And now there goes Servios.
He just walked into that one. Walked right out into the open, no cover, and everyone on SIMP had a shot on that.
And Droxus was in a great position too, moving from the F crossroads. He's going to push up against Zone Delta. And now it's all up to Static, as he's going to turn the corner, and the rest of SIMP's going to push forward. Static takes a big hit on the side.
And he's reloading.
And he's reloading. Not in a good position at all. Droxus, one more shot could take him out, and he does. Now SIMP is in the lead 2-1 in this turnover here, as we have one more battle remaining on this map. Still anybody's game.
Still anybody's game, but we saw SIMP on their first attack win. We saw eLevate on their first attack win. Now, if the trend continues, maybe we see eLevate win on the defense here the second time when they get to adjust to their opponent. and they don't perhaps have that perfect strat set up. They might try something different. It makes sense to, but because the strat they just tried worked, maybe they go for it again. But there is a hard counter to it. You watch that road, that middle Echo Foxtrot road going down the middle, and as long as you have cover on it, you're going to be able to do plenty of damage and prevent this situation. Now, Bernal Empires, though, I think didn't handle this quite properly. I think their defense was not nearly as good as Simp's, and their reactions and teamwork in this situation was not sufficient to really win this out.
The positioning from Simp on this map was impeccable, in particular, Blue Boy's captain. He is shutting down that entire line, and if any tanks are trying to move across that road to engage the rest of the opponents of Simp or to move in for a quick shot to get the reset on the flag cap, they're going to get punished for it. And they can't tell exactly where Blue Boy's captain is because of that camouflage. Really, really good play from him.
Yeah, and when he went over there, he was boxing another player out. He was getting rid of I think it was it Serenity, who was flanking right there, had great shots on the cap, would have been a real thorn in the side of Simp. They recognized the threat and got rid of it as quickly as possible so that everything else was not able to do its job as well. Everything else from Bernal Empires was not able to get the shots they needed. They didn't have the distraction. They actually had to move out and expose themselves in order to stop the cap. Whereas if you'd had the tank down the zero line like we saw, the one that Blue Boys was able to take down, you would have seen a situation where Bernal Empires actually was in a very good position, a position where they could stop the cap and have beautiful crossfires on their opponent. Simp denied that, completely denied it, and that's what counted in that.
And the flip side was G-Force's position to the north, right? Something similar, but not as strong because of the nature of the map. So what does eLevate do differently now compared to what we saw on the defensive side against Simp?
I think they need to isolate a group of tanks, either protecting this F crossroads while also watching their own cap.
Yes, the F crossroads I think is very key right now. As the defensive players, you've got to watch what type of activity is coming from the center of the map. Battle number 4 is about to begin between eLevate and Simp. What do we have for tanks?
For tanks, I'm looking at 2 5100s at 1390, 2 RU-251s, and 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs for Simp. They are the attackers, the red team. The blue team, defenders, eLevate, will have 2 5100s, 2 IS-3s, 2 RU-251s, and a Hellcat. All right, bringing that Hellcat again. We'll see if it works and where it goes.
The opening moves from both teams here. Looks like no F crossroads at all coming from Simp. I had a feeling that was going to happen.
Change it up. Your opponent's going to cover it. Well, let's go for the north cap. MacG's going to lead the way, and behind him is going to be all the light tanks of Simp. That's 5 of them right there with the 5100s jumping on the cap. They'll screen it, and we'll see if they're able to win on the cap or if they just get the kills they need.
Urtai is about to get destroyed here. He hung back to try to cover that flag cap, and he's the first one down.
In an instant, he got no damage in there, and no one from Simp has taken any. Now MacG gets the spot. He is almost equally as quickly obliterated, and there's about as much damage traded back onto Simp, but they are still up a tank.
Now Static and Serenity are going the long way around. But the thing is, they need to get at least a reset from someone else on their team in order to do significant damage here. If they're relying on the reset coming from these two tanks and both of them miss, that's a win for Simp. This has to be a very well-timed and coordinated effort coming from eLevate. Static and Serenity now turning the corner, and Fej, the scout, is able to see them. There's one reset. Now Fej is going to assault against the RU-251s in that M41 Bulldog. He's going to go right in between, taking damage from one, misses a shot against another, and he dodges a shot from Serenity, lands a hit, takes another hit from behind, and here comes MacG and the other M41 Walker Bulldog trying to help his teammate as Simp continues to put pressure on the flag cap, and there's some traded fire.
And now there is a counter push coming from the east there, a little distraction in the west, and there's a push. 5100 moves up, is able to get down heavy 20, but they lose their 5100. They are just losing tanks in the open ground. G-Forcer is about to go down. Blue Boys just jumping at him, and there he goes.
Static misses a shot against Fej. He does the ram damage to kill MacG, and Fej lives. He is around the corner and is destroyed by Serenity 17. Still another reset happening on the flag cap. The amount of tanks still left alive for Simp, 4. 2 left alive, 1 left alive for eLevate. It's up to Zone Delta and the AMX 5100 from far away to take down the rest of these tanks or to keep that flag cap safe for another 4 minutes and 33 seconds.
He does not possess enough damage in his clip to deal with this, actually. Between Abrasive and Crimson Corsair, he would run out of shells. Blue Boys is healthy enough, and Adroxus would take a few shells as well. This looks like Simps won this one very strong. Very strong win right now.
Abrasive up around the corner, zone Delta 94 pushing up, trying to use a little bit of camouflage from the trees and bushes. Takes a big shot from Abrasive to the front, another one to the side. The volley continues from Simp as the remaining tank from eLevate falls, and Simp is up 3-1 as we finish the first map and move on to Prohorovka.
All right, so Ruinberg, how was that handled is a big question from both teams. First, I guess we'll start with Simp, which is Simp played that very well. They had two very solid strats on the attack, which I liked. On defense, that's all we needed right there. They held as strong as Simp as expected. This is the second strat that you saw. Nothing too crazy. This isn't super out there or anything. Other teams have done something like this, but they have sent 5 light tanks directly into this position, and that allowed them to immediately eliminate a tank. It's a little risky if you were to be walking into tanks watching that position, but because of the vision from Bernal Empires, which might need a little work on that strategy so that they can see those light tanks coming, you can see how that strat works out.
Yeah.
It's a little risky in some ways because it's also very light. Against something with IS-3s, maybe you might have trouble. I'm not sure. We'd have to see how that plays out. But against heavy armor, you might be running into kind of just throwing your heads against a brick wall. But against a lighter lineup, like what we saw from Bernal Empires, I think you can probably agree. Tell me if you don't. But it just works.
Well, the thing that I noticed the most was that they were together. They assaulted together. And when you're able to overcome an entire part of the map, and there's only one enemy tank there, it's like finding a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's awesome. You're not going to complain at all. When we mentioned the F Crossroads, what ran through my mind when I was going to respond to you was, well, they want to focus on the F Crossroads, but that is the answer to what happened to them in the last battle. That's not the answer to everything that could happen on the battlefield. And so when they kept the one Hellcat back there, they may have been thinking the same thing of, well, they could go to the north side. Let's at least put one tank up there, long-range shots. Let's take down the scouts at least. Let's take down Fej. Let's take down MacG. Well, guess what? The entire team is coming and you're dead. So that is a type of mind games a little bit in the meta-type gaming that we're seeing from Simp.
Okay, so just so you know, there is a timeout called. So we're having a slight delay on the battle. I believe that was from eLevate. And that'll give them a few moments. That tells me that Bernal Empires maybe needs a minute to collect themselves.
Possibly. When you're in this type of scenario and then you're moving into another map on Prohorovka, it's a good little bit of a reset of, hey, all right, what's going wrong? Who's making the wrong calls? Who's not landing their shots? Go with plan B. Whatever type of preparation either of these teams brought, they need to look at those notes and look at those playbooks. Every team is allowed one timeout per match for that reason. And also to give you guys a heads up of what's happening in the other match that's going on. It's not being broadcast. So that's Cunningham's versus Hammer Time. They are currently tied 1-1, and we'll give you the result of that matchup later on tonight. Prohorovka is the map that you highlighted earlier today in the pregame show. Do you expect hill play to happen?
I would like to see it, mostly because I feel like those strats create a cool polarization. You get one team taking the east as the attacker, and then they decide, we've got this control, let's spread it all the way north to south. Control the 3 choke points. Defender, who may have actually been cut off because they're mid-strat or something, or maybe they go west. If they go east, you get a cool, crazy fight, but most of the time in qualifiers, we saw that west-east, and we had to see a team just go up and over and try and see if they could make it in. Sometimes they made it, sometimes they didn't.
Sometimes. Let's find out which team's going to make it. Prohorovka battle number 5 between Simp and eLevate. What do we have for tanks?
For tanks, I'm looking at a T-32, a Pershing, 1390, 3 RU-251s, and a T-37. That is Simp. The defenders, the blue team. The attackers, the red team, eLevate, have brought a T-32, a T-69 instead of that Pershing, 1390, 3 RU-251s, and a Hellcat instead of that T-37 that Mac has brought. What's your opinion on the Hellcat versus the T-37? I want to hear it.
The stationary target and range for a Hellcat? Sure. T-37? America.
They're both American tanks. I'll tell you mine. Okay. The T-37 is faster. traverses better.
Oh, for sure.
Is a light tank, so on the move, has great camo. Its gun, probably not as good as the Hellcats, but still pretty good. We saw it perform well in the qualifiers at times. I think it's a stronger choice than the Hellcat. I think the Hellcat's a good tank, but it's not good enough to bring over some other choices like the T-37.
Fair assessment. Looking at the hill movement from Urtai and Serenity 17. Side of eLevate here as the Hellcat from Servios is leading the charge towards that flag cap.
And we've got Abrasive shooting off into, I guess, the buildings, trying to destroy some stuff or put out blind fire. And, ooh, a shot onto Abrasive, 525 damage. He's going to have to slide off into cover, and that's going to give East control to SIMP to start, sorry, to eLevate to start this one out. West side going to SIMP. We're going to see the situation I was talking about a moment ago, where we're going to see SIMP attempt to break into the east side of the map and stop them from getting a cap. And we're going to see eLevate try and secure this position, create their crossfires, and prevent their opponent from doing anything of the like.
The Zone Delta 94 is going to move closer to the railroad tracks, and as we're seeing the time tick down, 5 minutes and 20 seconds, for any new viewers tonight, explaining the 7x54 matchup here. The defending side, the blue side, they cannot allow the enemy team, the guys in red, to capture either the flag points. So they have to destroy all the enemy tanks or wait for the timer to run out. The red team, the attackers, they must capture one of the flag capture points or destroy all the enemy tanks. And as Zone Delta is moving across Prohorovka to the northern side, Servios and the M18 Hellcat's going to cover his movement. Abrasive in the RU-251 is taking significant damage in that tank as his battle buddy, Heavy 20, in his RU-251 is trying to cover him. As Blue Boys captain in the French AMX 1390, a tank from real life, as most of these tanks are, is going to move up towards the railroad tracks and try to cover the spread here. And G-Forcer takes a hit further away in his T-32.
Where'd he get that from? Probably from Crimson Corsair, maybe. Was that right? Yeah, makes sense that it would be Crimson Corsair, another T-32, who is looking across. Nice hold-down position for him. And he's gonna, I guess, look for Urtai, or Urtai's gonna be able to peek up and get just enough of the top of his tank that he might be able to put an HE shell into that commander's hatch. If he gets that, that could be significant damage, and it could knock out one of his crew members.
Urtai's dancing back and forth next to the railroad tracks, and here comes G-Forcer in the T-32. 3 minutes and 57 seconds left. G-Forcer's looking for an opening between these tracks. Gets it against Adroxus. Nice shot from G-Forcer. And here comes the movement. That's a distraction from Crimson Corsair and Adroxus as the northern side's going to push up. Serenity and Azrael 90 now heading towards the bushes, and they're going to assault against the T-32 and the 26 Pershing. This is a full-on attack coming from eLevate.
Wow, and they lose right at the beginning. The Hellcat is going to go down, but this is insane for the attacker to go against them like this and not go for the cap. I'm wondering what advantage they're seeing. They're getting Crimson, but they've lost Zone Delta and Urtai at the beginning of this fight.
It's the exposure. Static still hyper exposed in the RU-251. You see significant cross shots coming from all sides. The red team, eLevate, is going to have to readjust, and Static's going to fall on an assault covering him. He's going to take 2 shots from Fej, as well as Abrasive. Heavy 20 wants to get into the action as well across the railroad tracks, and Abrasive is the one that gets the hit and the kill. 3 tanks remain for eLevate, the attackers. 5 tanks remain for the defenders, SIMP. 2 minutes and 56 seconds. eLevate still has coverage of the flag cap on the east side, but if SIMP pushes across the railroad tracks together, they could definitely get this win.
Yeah, they've got the overmatch, but they do have some tanks that could go down easily if Abrasive goes down quickly, or if Heavy 20 gets himself... Okay, no, never mind. I'll scratch that. Heavy 20, good position right behind the wreck of another tank. He can't pen through that. So, good cover, is able to back off and only takes 1 shell. There's only 3 tanks right now for eLevate over there, and they are rather spread out. SIMP, if they scout this out, it seems like an easy situation for them. Go up and over, kill a few tanks, probably wrap this up with a few losses in there, but acceptable.
Azrael 90 peeks around the corner, misses shot against Abrasive. Heavy 20 is punished for pushing up against Serenity. Abrasive so close to falling, he does not go down yet, and Azrael 90 is going to be punished for it. He does get the kill. Heavy 20 is going to fall back. Azrael gets the double kill, but Serenity 17 is the last tank remaining up top. He fires into Fej. And now SIMP is going to push up 22 tier points to 8 tier points. It's a matter of time here for the defenders.
Yeah, 1 shell will take him out. He's at 190 hit points. I think MacG could be the only one who low rolls for this. SIMP did a good job at defending that, but eLevate was overly aggressive in this situation. Instead of trying to force their opponent into an uncomfortable attack or to reclaim the cap, they instead just created an engagement where there were crossfires waiting to happen.
Well, T-37 looks like it won out against the Hellcat so far, but the Hellcat still keeps being picked. I'm sure in one scenario it's going to prove very effective, but for now, not working out.
Oh, wow. What a shot from Fetch.
Nice shot coming through the 2 railroad cars. That's it. SIMP is able to get another battle victory. They're 1 battle away from taking 5 victories and taking the entire series. Prohorovka, they're still going to stay on the defending side, as eLevate will have to be the attackers. It seemed that attack, Randall, was in the right realm of what they should be doing, but it didn't go their way at all.
They had the setup. They had a setup we'd seen before. They had the east side of the map. They could have put some pressure on the cap, forced their opponent to reset and expose themselves, but instead they went for something a little bit more aggressive and dominant. They wanted SIMP to react to them, but SIMP does that well. They react to their opponent very well, and they're able to just deal with this. You can see the focus fire coming in. You can see good moves from eLevate. They move tanks to flank the sides of the Pershing and the T-32, but they kind of neglect the fact that there is a spread of light tanks around with a crossfire on that position. SIMP was ready for that, and eLevate kind of threw a bunch of tanks right into a crossfire.
It's that moment when Static was on the battlefield going, yeah, we got some kills, and then all of a sudden he turns around and he sees all of the turrets from SIMP locked and loaded, ready to go, and he is done.
It's
a minor victory, small celebration, and a very quick death.
Yeah, you may get the first kill in that situation, but you'll quickly find that you're out in the middle of a field on a downslope, which makes it even easier to shoot at your tank. You're even more exposed. It's a situation that I don't think eLevate thought through enough to where they would be after those kills happened, and that was their mistake.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they can have step 2, 3, 4, and 5 of their next plan in place as they are going up against SIMP. Perhaps one final time in this series, as SIMP is 1 battle away from closing it out on Prohorovka. What do we have for tanks?
All right, so defenders, SIMP, T-32 Pershing, 1390, 3 RU-251s, and a T-37. So they're going with the heavy Tier 8 lineup and a single Tier 6 tank. On the other side, eLevate, bringing a Pershing, a T-69, 1390, 3 RU-251s, and a Hellcat. Much the same, except they're still bringing that Hellcat. And I still have to say that I think the T-37 is probably a better choice.
We said the same thing about the IS-6 being used by Velaccio as well. He had some points he wanted to make about the tank that were valid points. We'll have to ask eLevate the same question here. Looking at the positioning on Prohorovka from the red team, moving up to the center to get some scouting information, and then falling back as the M26 Pershing, driven by G-Forcer and Servios in the Hellcat, move towards the railroad side up the 5-6 line. And Abrasive is able to fire 1 shot. G-Forcer misses. A couple more shots coming from long range from SIMP. And G-Forcer, again, the first tank to be hit. But he fires back, and Abrasive does not get hit by Servios from the Hellcat, but he does get 1 shell from G-Forcer.
And there's not a... Oh, Abrasive is taking shells down in his position in Alpha 6. It's kind of exposed, yeah, but he does have plenty of bush cover, and that should allow him to go dark. Oh, never mind. Serenity goes up and over, fires at Abrasive, does not connect, and takes 180 damage for that. SIMP is looking at the same situation they had last time, except that it's not so obvious the strategy from eLevate this time. eLevate actually made some moves which I think to SIMP appeared as though they were going to the west side of the map and we're going to take control there and try and do a north-south deal. But instead, they shifted over into the east and took that control again. Now we've got an up and over. Azrael is going straight into Abrasive, and this is incredibly aggressive. Except there are a lot of missed shells. That's the big problem with this. I'm seeing a lot of missed shells onto Abrasive, and that might come back to bite them. It depends on what tanks those were. The flank coming in from SIMP, though, right from the south is going to go up and over, and we're going to find Zone Delta in the T-69. He's about to get jumped on and torn apart.
This crossfire coming from the northern section of eLevate is working in that center. There goes Crimson, but G-Forcer is very low. 723 damage done in that volley as Fej and MacG from SIMP push up. Fej gets the kill, but Urtai focuses on MacG and takes him down. Servios down in the center again on the battlefield. He's the next one to fall from Adroxus from the Pershing, and SIMP are clumped together, but able to assault any movement coming from eLevate. Well, eLevate is split apart. It's 2 on one side, and 3 on the other. And here comes the red team, focusing down the battlefield. Urtai in the front.
What is this, Josh? They're going out into the open, completely exposed, going at their opponent. They're paying to begin some kind of close-in engagement, and I don't know if this is going to come out to their favor.
Well, they're going up and over to the left of those buildings, and now getting past the rocks, they're going to try to focus on Blue Boy's captain. Adroxus takes down Zone Delta. They need to be coordinated on their attacks, and the rest of SIMP are very low in health, but so are they. Static takes down Blue Boys. Heavy 20 in the 1390. Super low health, able to punish movement, and 2 more shots and 2 more kills. It's 2 against 3 as SIMP has the majority of tanks. Not anymore. Now it's tied up 2-2. Static and Serenity now focus on Heavy 20. Serenity is going to be the linchpin with the amount of HP he has. He is not one shot away.
And now we're Fedge 2v1. Can Fedge do it? It's possible. Static is a one-shot. If Fedge is able to kill him.
Static misses. Fedge is hit on the side.
No, he missed.
Fedge missed. He was just above. Static moved. Fedge still left alive, though, but Serenity gets it, and eLevate stays alive, putting another point on the board. They had some courage going straight on, but Fedge was so close to getting that shot.
He could have done it. He very well could have done it. He had to get 1 shell connected onto one of the RUs, and that would have evened it up. If he'd stayed back on the top of the hill a little bit, let his shots 0, and then make those connections, I think he would have had a better chance. That's all hindsight. He was trying to just get in there and continue the fight while they may have been distracted and going, where's Fedge, where's Fedge, and looking around in every direction, but didn't work out. Good play from eLevate in the brawl, especially at the end when it cleaned up, and not losing the momentum when it came to. This was dangerous, though.
This was a huge risk for eLevate, but it paid off. Why? Because they focus on Blue Boy's captain, and they're able to avoid some of the crossfire coming from SIMP in the center of the battlefield. As those tanks are focused more on the northern section, that tank does fall from eLevate, but they trade fire on Blue Boy's captain. Here's where it gets a little bit crazy. Heavy 20 continues to fire from that hold-down position, so they have to choose, do we assault the tanks up top the hill that are going to prove to be really effective against us if we move against Heavy 20? Or do we move against Heavy 20 and use that deflate as cover and try to come back up? And they went against Heavy 20.
Yeah, and with eLevate, I mean, they could have handled that even better. They could have handled that fight just more, with even more coordination. They could have gone and focused down, yes, Blue Boys, but there were wasted shells there, and it seemed like there was some kind of weird just dead time where everyone was waiting to load in order to fire at him.
There was about 2 or 3 seconds where, go, go, assault now, but there must have been the reload.
I think that was it. 1390 was moving in, trying to time his reload, because it's an incredibly long reload. It's depending on what you bring on it, it could be, you know, about 33 to a few seconds more.
33 to about 37, depending. But they're all maxed on crew skills and stuff.
But it depends on what they bring. They can bring vents, or they can bring rations or something, and that can speed up their repair time. But do they bring an automatic fire extinguisher? Because a 1390 on fire is usually a dead 1390, even with firefighting crew skills.
It's going to take us to battle number
7.
SIMP has 4. eLevate has 2. SIMP still 1 battle away from taking the series. Or could this be the comeback from eLevate? We're going to find out. What do we have for tanks?
All right. It looks like, as I get my score in order, apologies, that we're going to have T32, T69, 1390, 3 RU-251s, and a T37 for SIMP. They will be, this time, the red team attacking. Now the defenders eLevate. The blue team will have a T32, a T69, 1390, 3 RU-251s, and that's going to be an M44, an artillery piece being brought here.
Fun fact, both points from eLevate have been from attacking. For SIMP, 2 defending, 2 attacking for their 4. And as we see Urtai in the Arty, the M44. Now Arty shoots an arc fire, an SPG, self-propelled gun, thanks to the magic of gravity.
Fires shot up in the air. Let's see where it lands.
Goes up in the air, then comes down, but he has a different viewpoint compared to the rest of his tankers. It is a very top-down viewpoint, and it does significant damage. However, the accuracy on Arties are not the most accurate compared to other tanks on the field, so there's a bit of a drawback. However, he can be way far away from the battle and still be a threat, and that's what he's doing right now. He is moving as far as he can into the northeastern corner.
Oh, that's going to be very nice because, one, he's going to be in a raised position, allow him to get a little bit better shots on things that are hiding behind any solid cover. And on top of that, I think he might have some real cover.
He's got camo.
He's got a bush.
as he
But
moves
yeah,
past.
okay, never mind. That's a little exposed. If a member of SIMP were to spot him, he would be a pretty easy target from way far off.
Let's see where his first shot's going to head towards.
What I want to see is this. I want to see if SIMP is on their arty game enough, and by arty game I mean counter arty, or playing with an arty present in a map, to the point where they know exactly where the shell came from when it hits near to them. That's something that a lot of pro players don't get to practice a lot, or at least they haven't gotten to in the past few seasons because arty hasn't been present. But when you play tanks enough, you kind of get to know this shell landed just like this on this hill near to me. I know arty was aiming for me, so he must be in this grid square, this location, you know?
And there is the trigger. There's a shot from Urtai on the flag cap. Does it connect? It's close, but no cigar. Urtai will continue to maintain this position and fire from afar as the rest of his teammates will look for SIMP's position.
And if MacG holds still like he is in a light tank, there's the possibility that an artillery shell will be finding him shortly. I'm hearing shots fired, and there's another miss, another shot just blind out into the cap to see if anything's there. MacG is close to what I would consider to be the predictable spot on this cap. There's usually a spot on every cap point where it's the safest, and I say that with air quotes.
Oh! That one got close to MacG.
A little closer.
Still no connection yet. G-Force and the T-32 and the rest of eLevate are waiting for one of those connections. He takes a shot in his tracks, and he's going to fall back.
Yeah.
One solid hit from that artillery is all they need. Fires again, doesn't hit.
I don't think eLevate seems nearly as prepared as SIMP was to defend.
Well, G-Forcer takes a number of hits here. But in the slow-moving T-32, he's trying to set up a different flank or put the action somewhere else here to get... Oh, this is what he's doing. Trying to set up on this hill, take a number of shots to the front. T-32 is an excellent hold-down position tank, a tank that is able to hide the majority of its body but still have its turret pop up to return fire.
Now Heavy 20 is a little bit cut off in this position. Servios finds him, 640 damage into that tank, while he does return 586, but will the support come in from eLevate? Where are those guns? They need to be looking at Heavy 20 because we cannot afford a trade out in this situation. Heavy 20 is... There we go. Okay, Servios is alive for a little bit while longer, but he should go down shortly. There's Simps moving in.
And they're moving in against a number of tankers that were focused on two different spots because of that southern engagement. And as they continue to push forward, they're able to get a number of kills here. Azrael 90 still trying to hold out. Now it's 3 tankers, one of them an arty, up against 6. G-Force and Zone Delta trying to hold in this center. And look at Adroxus, barely left alive in the T-69, falling back a little bit, but will still be a threat later. MacG in the T-37 is now up and over trying to find Urtai. G-Forcer in the T-32, last tank in the front line, on the front lines, alive, and he falls. More shots coming from Urtai, but not a lot of connections. Randall, we're going to have to check the score at the end.
Yeah, I don't think he was able to be as effective. That was way too fast a fight for Arty to keep up with at that range. And he was really there to kind of break Simp down slowly and hope for a longer battle. But Simp put the pressure on the cap quickly, making it so Arty did not have the opportune amount of time to do as he wished. Excuse me.
And two tanks on the flag cap here. Urtai still has a chance if he's still zoomed in, ready to go, to fire a couple shots.
Shot out.
And not close enough. We'll go ahead and maintain this position as Fez and Blue Boys Compton.
That landed right in the spot that MacG was.
The
last time.
And now Fez is going to be right on top of that spot. It can't hit in the same place twice, right? That's it. That's his mentality here. Well, maybe it can. He's going to move.
Yeah.
And Blue Boys Captain.
Oh, MacG. When did he take 61 damage? I think he might have fallen down the cliff a little bit. 6 seconds left. Urtai's going to have 1 shell to delay this, and MacG is within range. He might be able to spot.
Fez leaves the flag cap in order to keep the battle going with 1 minute and 8 seconds left. They want to find Urtai. And that one hits. Crimson Corsair gets hit for 182. It was not a direct hit right in front of him, though. That will damage a little bit of the tank.
That's what HE does. You get splash, always deals damage, is one of the sayings of a few people in pubs. Although, usually that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek.
Urtai fires another shot towards the bushes. Doesn't hit. Now, Urtai can't see the tanks on the flag cap. That's why he may not be as accurate people go, why is he missing so much? There's no scouting information. He can't see those tanks. There's a certain limit to how far you can see, and that is it. SIMP is able to take it 5-2 in the first match of the night.
Not bad. SIMP looking strong as ever. Even on the attack, they were very competent. Their defenses, I thought, were prime, as is to be expected from SIMP. I mean, when has SIMP ever been bad at a defense? They've had fumbles on offense. Yes, they've really failed to really bring it together at times.
Sure.
But defense, they're always good.
Yes, but from last season when RBIS took them out in the playoffs, that surprised everybody. And that was getting to a point where teams were recognizing here is how we beat SIMP. Here's how we get past that point. But no, of course, I totally agree with you. But with any type of strategy, defensive or aggressive, there is a weakness to it.
Always.
Somewhere hidden somewhere, there is a weakness to it.
Yeah, there's a hard counter to most every strat you can bring in this format. Now, there's perfect strategies for certain situations that work really well against a pretty wide number of strategies, and people are going to start finding those, how to play in such a way that you kind of counter out every best strategy of everyone else. But there's no true best strategy. They're just almost there. They're almost best strategies.
There's best decisions in the moment that you can make, but it's not going to be perfect.
I think Himmelsdorf is probably the only map we'll see a lineup or a defensive position that is really just a best strategy.
Sure. That northwestern section's so good.
Exactly.
So good. Let's take a look at Urtai. He fired 13 times. He was 1 for 1.
Yeah.
With splash damage of 4.
There you go.
392 damage. So unfortunately, not the best performance of Artie on this map this time, but
why? Okay, so why is probably what we should answer for that.
Exactly.
Because we can say Artie didn't do well here today, and people will just go, okay, Artie didn't do well. Obviously, Artie is bad. Some people think that.
It's not the case, though.
It's not quite the case. In this situation, when they brought the artillery, the situation that you need to be running into is an offensive from your opponent that is slower, that is not fast enough to the point where they're actually going to win the battle in the first few minutes. You need this to last a while. You need this to be drawn out so that Artie can keep putting shells out because they have a long reload. And they need to just have the opportunity to deal as much